Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to FuturEsports. It's the FES 3 League competition, and it's a pleasure to be here, that's for sure. My name, of course, if you don't know already, is George Morgan, commentator as well for many other leagues as well on the F1 platform. But I am not alone. I have got a legend of the game alongside me in the commentary box today. He is moonlighting as a broadcaster instead of a driver, but he is still just as talented, because we are going to be seeing him during this competition as well next week. But Dániel Bereznay joins me, McLaren Shadow driver, and of course Veloce esports driver as well. Danny, welcome to the broadcast, my friend.
Hi guys, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here alongside you. I won't speak too much, but I try to do my best to help in the technical details of this F1 2021 game as a driver's perspective.
Yeah, well, it'd be very, very valuable to have your insight into this. Obviously, there's a lot of drivers on this track today that are competing at the highest level of the F1 game, and we're very, very, I suppose, fortunate to have talent like this that we can watch on a regular basis on a platform such as this at FuturEsports. Just how important are these league competitions, Danny?
I think these leagues are pretty good to set up your mood for the actual esports. As esports, we have like 4 events, maybe 12 races in a year, and that's not enough for your body to adapt to the ultimate stress you have. But in these moments, you can prove how good you are when it really matters, and also you can take away a lot of lessons and learn where to improve. And when you actually get to esports, you won't be surprised how the things go on track when it really matters.
Absolutely, and we're about to be commencing qualifying for our first runs. We'll take a look at the driver lineup for tonight as well, because we've got so many brilliant talents here for this run here tonight. We will bring the webcams back for you as well, folks. Won't be will be a very quick moment indeed. There we are, we're back now. A big hello. There you can see the drivers. This is the lineup. We've got, of course, Jeffrey Ritchie in the Mercedes with John Evans, Ben Szabó-Kónyi and Akinci in the Red Bulls. We got Martin Ido and Kedon Lutt in McLaren. Of course, a lot of these drivers you will be familiar with, folks. These guys have been at the top end of league racing for so many years. Zsolt Bial as well with Piotr Stachulec in the Ferrari. And then, of course, you got Flores Viers and Primož Miklavčič as well joining him at Alpine. We've got Samuel Bean and Daniel Haddad, the special guest Aston Martin F1 esports driver as well, joining us here tonight, of course, for the 2 races at Portimao and, of course, Imola as well. We've got others including Christoph Zell, Norbert Jakob, Milan Meyer, Zoltán Boda, Ulas Ozyildirim, Istvan Pukki, Louis Welch and Ruben Vallejo. Of course, they're obviously certainly representing the likes of Alfa, Romeo, Williams and Haas as well. A very good lineup of drivers here, Danny, and competitors I'm sure that you've crossed paths with many times before as well.
Yeah, they are all pretty talented, and actually some of them are in a better form than the real esports players at these times, because, you know, the Challenger series is underway. They have races every second Thursday to be able to compete against many eyeballs of team leaders and then later maybe be selected. And these drivers are on the top of the game now, so who wins here, it's basically on an esports pro level, and that will be fantastic to see.
Absolutely, we're looking forward to seeing how they do, of course. We'll just take a little look quickly as the drivers are making their way out to Imola, of course. Just a little quick look at the calendar. Obviously a lot to look forward to here as well. We will have to bring the webcams back for this one as well. We had it on a different setting earlier, folks, but we are back in the room again. Tonight we are going to be heading to Imola and Portimao. Probably the most exciting race weekend of the bunch as well, Danny. Of course, if you look at Imola itself, steeped in history in Formula 1, of course, you associate Ayrton Senna's sort of unfortunate fatal accident around Tamburello. But after that, we have had so many brilliant races at Imola, of course, and not to mention Portimao, a roller coaster of a circuit. So technical, so daring, but very fast-paced. A great combination of tracks here tonight.
Yeah, and I think these tracks are the best scanned because they are one of the newest in the game. So if you just look at the graphics, it's absolutely incredible how close everything is to real life. The curves, the colors, the texture around the circuit, all the trees are in place and are up to date. And this is why I also love racing around these circuits, and I'm kind of jealous that I cannot be there. Imola, that's what we start off with. It will be pretty hard to overtake. There is a long DRS straight and a long straight to get the slipstream, but if everyone is in a train, then you need to take some risk, and it's quite easy to overheat the tires even on one lap, so qualifying will be interesting, but for the race it's even more important, and we see the first drivers start their lap now.
Yeah, we'll be joining them now, folks. We'll head over to the race screen now and bring you live action here from Imola. Obviously, it's a pleasure to be here, of course. We just have to wait for the screen to come back, because, of course, currently it seems to be showing black. I've got to say, the wonders of certainly streaming, folks, and technology in this day and age. But here we are back in amongst it, and very shortly we'll be getting a live action feed as well from the show itself. Here it is. There you have it. There is Ido Martin currently out on track for McLaren as well. Ulas Ozyildirim. Is there any key names you can highlight here, Danny, that you could see as big threats heading through qualifying? Because it's short quali today, so these drivers need to be at their best in the very first session.
Yeah, I think I'm not mistaken if I start off with an esports player. It's Daniel Haddad. He's been pretty consistent in league racing recently, and there we saw a Red Bull who let another driver pass, going completely off track. But my favorite name here is probably Christoph Sella. Maybe not in Imola, but in Portugal. I know he will smash it. Imola, it's a bit tricky circuit for him, I feel like. But also Flores, and I think Ozyildirim will be pretty fast. But we see Samuel Bean also performed really well in the recent league races. Basically half of the field can be up there, fight for the victory, so I don't think I would place any big bets on anyone right now.
No, it's certainly all to play for at this very early stage. And as you can see, Primož Miklavčič currently leading the charge at the moment. A 1:13.613 is the current time to beat. Teammate Flores Veers in behind as well. Flores has been very outspoken in his attempts to try and get back to the top of league racing. It certainly has been definitely a passion of his, that he's trying to recoup, get his position back in F1 Esports, as Piotr Stachulec crosses the line in the Ferrari and sets a 1:13.605, a minimal gap between him and Primož Miklavčič, and you can see, just looking at the deltas, they're starting to cascade downwards now, and that is exactly what we like to see, certainly at this area of racing. It's just so competitive, isn't it, Danny?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the weather. It's an 18-minute long qualifying session, and you only have 3 sets of fresh tires, and everyone is out super early, so I have a feeling it might rain at the end of the session. We cannot know it for sure, but I have this feeling for some reason, so these first laps are pretty important. I think the pole in VOR Championship was like a 13.2, so there is another maybe 3.5 tenths to gain for the drivers who want to be up there, but obviously at this early stages, just as in real life, the track doesn't grip up that much, as it is not in rubber at the moment. No, it's quite green.
Well, that's exactly why we love having you on this broadcast, Danny. You can provide that insight that we like to hear, of course, and you're absolutely spot on. We're going to be looking at delta times, I think, maybe far greater than what we're seeing right now. Obviously, you identified a 13.2 as a potential fastest time, so that's another 4 tenths off what Piotr Stachulec has done at this very early stage. So you would say there's definitely room for more improvement, for sure?
Yeah, but this track is like a full send. This chicane, what we actually just witnessed, István made, this is like you either send it or you either lose 2 tenths of a second, but when you really send it, then you will completely invalidate your lap time. But there is the rain already. I see it on your screen, man. There are the raindrops, and probably no one will improve, and probably those drivers who made their laps at the earliest stages of the qualifying and made them perfect, made them right, will start in the best position. And we see Daniel Haddad at the end of the field, not even completing a lap. We see Bence Szabó at the last position, who is an awesome and talented driver. We see Samuel Beam, who I predicted to be at the front, and he is not there. And we also see Olli Selleck Christoph in P6. I expected a bit more of him. And we see Stachulec and Miklavčič and Ozyildirim and Flores Veers running the front 2 rows, and I don't think anyone will improve in that.
I think you're absolutely right, Danny. I think at this moment in time, I think a 13-2 is probably, we might as well forget it. I can't see us getting it. Right now, Piotr Stachulec holding his own, very sensible to certainly head out as early as possible to get the track at its driest, make sure the tyres are up to temperature, maintain their quickness, certainly on a track that was certainly at that point not wet at all and not too slick. So a great show, and you can already see Jeffrey Ritchie has retired from the session. There is a yellow flag in sector 1. I don't think that was him. Whether that was a choice retirement at this point in time, I do not know. Piotr Stachulec incidentally out on another outlap. Primož Miklavčič, he's retired as well. He can't see an improvement. Oh, dearie me, Piotr Stachulec coming through Tamburello, very nearly wiping himself out, came across maybe a bit too quick. He underestimated the weather, and I think you're absolutely right, Danny. I don't think we're going to see any improvements. This is bad news for Dániel Bereznay, who's currently routed to the back of the field.
Yeah, and I wonder what weather will the race bring to us, because here, if the race is dry, then people should just wait and retire, because they mess the muscle memory up with the different amount of grip now in the wet conditions in the qualifying. But if the race is wet, or it has a wet part, and you are not as confident, even though park fermi is on, so you cannot change your car settings, but you can get a feeling of the level of the grip, and it's actually a great practice if you continue lapping around. We see that half of the field retired already and half of the field is still out on track. Obviously they know they want to improve their lap times, but they feel like even last moments it's great practice.
Well, absolutely, and it's a great chance to make the most of it. I'm just going to quickly put the audio on. I think it's currently set to stereo, so we're not getting that feed that we were hoping for, so do bear with me, folks. We will get that sorted out. Just bear with me a second. To you, Danny, about this certain situation with the wet weather. Certainly, this is, again, it all comes down to adaptation, I think, at this point. So, you know, these guys need to be on their toes, need to be prepared for anything, I suppose. And that is really the state of play. You know, these guys need to be prepared for the wet weather in order to execute in the right way. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, they would have practiced wet weather conditions. Heading into the race now, obviously you've got the likes of Dániel Bereznay, who's now, he's got to move from the back. But obviously, given the fact that we are running shorter races, does that take away the strategy element slightly?
Yeah, probably less laps to play with in the strategy, but less laps to fight, and you have to complete the same amount of overtakes if you want to finish on the top, so pretty big aggression is needed, and I think that's why it will be an interesting race. I think F1 Esports moves to like 35% races for the same reason. This young generation, the attention span is not as long as it used to be, and I think it will make us a really eventful event. And there we see everyone retired, so we are not even waiting till the end of the qualifying, saving some time, and here are the final results.
They certainly are. Piotr Stachulec starts on pole for Ferrari. A small gap then. 0.08 of a second behind. Primož Miklavčič for Alpine in second. Ulas Ozyildirim in third. Floris Fiers in fourth. Great return for Floris Fiers. Akinci there in the mix as well in P5. You got Zeller as well in sixth, with Istvan in seventh. Kedon Lutt in eighth, as well as Milán in ninth. Jeffrey Miguel Ritchie in P10. And that rounds out the top 10 heading into this race, folks. I hope, obviously, we've cleared up some of that audio for you. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in here tonight. If you would please, obviously, leave a like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, of course, but then head over to Twitch as well, where we are live on the FuturEsportS channel. Make sure you leave a follow, and if you want to subscribe on that as well, you can obviously subscribe to that too. Now let's have a look at the certainly the track info for race 1, because obviously it's just around the corner, and again, we will bring the webcams back for this as well, folks. Obviously, we got the broadcast live feed coming from the commentary box of the broadcast lounge. Here is the circuit of Imola, 4.909 meters, or 19 turns as well, of course, located in Imola. The fastest lap time being set at a 1:15.484. A lot of these guys, though, can go exceedingly quicker than that, of course. So we'll look forward to seeing what they can do. Obviously, Tamburello, like we said prior, Danny, is obviously a very big sticking point when it comes to Formula One racing. Obviously, we've spoken about Ayrton Senna and his incident, as well as many other things. But various other corners are also a big danger as well. The Villeneuve chicane, for example. Now, I have seen many incidents at the Villeneuve chicane. Is that something we could see here in this particular race? Is that the main danger?
Yeah, every chicane is pretty tricky, especially with the curves. We see a lot of sausage curves. It's basically a dinner out on track. And also the track limits are pretty strict. That's why sometimes I call F1 esports at some point harder than real life, because in real life you can go out of the track as many times as you want if you don't gain time or it's at a specific point where the FIA doesn't highlight any penalties for leaving the track. But here, no matter what you do, if you just go over in a fight or alone or in dirty air or in tricky weather conditions with 4 wheels outside of the white line, you will get a warning. And you can get 2 warnings in an entire race, and then you will receive a 3 seconds penalty, which is a lot in a tight field like that. If the DRS train sticks together, then it could be like 5-6 positions lost at the end of the race. So drivers will have to have pretty good risk management to not receive these penalties. And obviously, if one does and the safety car comes in right at the end, then you are basically screwed. You may be not even scoring points. So yeah, I think this is the most challenging on this circuit and in many other circuits as well in this Formula 1 game.
Well, it's risk versus reward, and obviously the drivers now making their way onto the grid now to commence or get ready for the start of this race. I'm going to ask you all in the live chat, please let us know who your picks are for the win in this race. 16 laps are ahead of us. Danny, I'm going to ask you one final question before we get underway. Who's your pick to win here at Imola?
Yeah, I think it will be one of the guys from the first row. I think they will be able to control the race and maybe switch between first and second place, play with the DRS, save some ERS. But obviously we need to keep an eye on the medium runners at the start too.
Yeah, we certainly do. Lights are about to go red here, folks. First light, second light, third light, fourth light, the fifth light. And it's pedal to the metal, go, 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 and immediately Piotr Stachulec off the line, now getting attacked by Primož Miklavčič, who now tries to hunt him, heading into Tamburello, it's Alpine and Ferrari, the Alpine spin to the front, Stachulec's off as well, Sainz heading around Tamburello, absolutely incredible, Floris Fiers now leads the Grand Prix, Akinci in second, Christoph Zeller in third place, Kedon Lutt up to fourth as well, he had a great start, Istvan Pukki in fifth, as well as Jeffrey Ritchie up to 6. Drama at the start here, Danny.
Man, my bet absolutely went to the bin. Both of the first guys are out of the top 10. It's truly amazing what they did there. I didn't even think they are going to fight. It doesn't matter at the early stage of the race whether you are in first place or in second, as in the long DRS zone you can overtake anyway. And I think the car on the inside hit the curb, maybe threw himself to the side one of the other, and did basically a spinella in a Ferrari. So it was actually quite related to real life, and we see Floris Fiers leading the race, who we just talked about in the qualifying, how talented he is and how good momentum he has, and he needs to push his ERS and needs to complete a perfect second lap, because he is on the edge of leading everyone away and not even giving the second place DRS, and that's a huge advantage if you can get out of the deadly train of DRS.
Absolutely, certainly DRS is going to be a prime figure here as we now rush down towards Villeneuve, and Samuel Bean with a little ankle tap on the rear of Milan Meyer, and they get so close and he's going to try, oh, it looked like he was going to try a move heading around the Tosa left-hander. It got very close between them. Ido Martin though dueling out with Ulas Ozyildirim, who is trying to hold on to P11. Norbert Jakob now up into P10 for AlphaTauri as they now scoot around the next left now, heading down towards Aqua Minerale. Piotr Stachulec moving back up the field. Remember, he was at the very back. Primož Miklavčič now at the back. Here comes Stachulec, rising up through the field now and has gained 3 places in a single lap. He's overtaken Haddad, Nagy, and also Szabó-Kónyi. He's on a recovery mission here, Danny.
It's pretty hard to do because when you spin, you absolutely kill your tires and they need time to recover. And now he's on the attack on the Alfa Romeo ahead. The absolute beast of the start, who we didn't speak about, is Samuel Bean. He started the race from the 17th position and now he's up to 8th. With the soft tire, he overtook everyone on the mediums and it's pretty hard on this track. Meanwhile, Stachulec making another move stick.
He is flying, absolutely flying. He's got things doing. Going back to what you were saying about Samuel Bean, up into 8th place. So he's really enjoying himself right now. Not to mention Louis Welch, medium tyres for Louis Welch. Currently in P9, he's in the top 10. Can he make the alternate strategy work on this occasion? Danny, just to ask you a quick question on that. How different can it? Well, I'm just watching this battle now between Stachulec and Zsolt Bial, teammates on this occasion, but Stachulec doesn't care. He's up into 13th. But going back to what I was saying, how OP would it be to start on mediums at the start of this race? Can you get any benefit starting on that tyre in this race?
Yeah, I think if you can stay in the DRS train, then theoretically you will have a better option at the end, but the track position is also pretty important and you need to prolong in your first stint, and many people will undercut you who is originally behind you, so that's not so good for you. Then you need to make many moves in a lap and it's pretty hard to recharge your ERS here, so you need to be really tactical. Mathematically it can work, but it's the hardest to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We got another battle now for second place. Akinci, who has lost DRS on Floris Viers. Floris Viers, it's absolutely flying. He is so clear. 1.6 seconds the difference. And now we got Akinci, who is going to try and hold off the relentless force of Christoph Zeller. Now, you yourself, Danny, pinpointed Zeller to be a big danger here tonight. He has managed to get himself, obviously, after the incident involving Piotr Stachulec and Primož Miklavčič, he's made use of it. He's up into the top 3, and now he's started to look like a serious threat on Akinci. Now, with Akinci now, is he spending too much time worrying what's behind him? Is he allowing Floris Viers to get away at this point?
No, I don't think. I think Christoph doesn't use ERS and tries to recharge his battery. He could basically overtake the Red Bull ahead anytime from this 3, 4, 5 tenths gap. When you push a little bit of the overtake button, you open your rear wing, you stick it in the slipstream, you can easily make a move here. I think they are not doing a bad pace at all, and this 1.6 second can be easily reduced within the 1 second gap in the future. Maybe he needs to pit 1 lap earlier and then it's already done. But what? Was it a contact made or it's a stability on the entry?
That was incredible. A bit of contact on the rear wing, forcing Akinci onto the gravel trap, heading through what looked to be Tamburello. We've now got Kedon Lutt, who's now in with the fight. He overtook Akinci during that off-track phase. Meanwhile, Samuel Bean is up at a P7. Huge drama here in lap 5 of 16, folks. Incredible. Floris Viers, as a response now, has pushed the delta gap out to 2.1 seconds. So Christoph Zeller tapping the rear of Akinci. I'd imagine the stewards are going to take a look at that one, because of course, you know, that looked like a bit of abrasive contact. The speed though that Christoph Zeller had down the straight was extraordinary. He was right on the rear of Akinci heading down that stretch, and now as a result Akinci went off onto the gravel trap, and now Kedon Lutt looks like a serious danger for that second place. They're now going to make their way around the next left now. They've got a home straight beckoning now. DRS will open up, and certainly Christoph Zeller has no DRS, or he doesn't need it, because now he leads the race, because in comes Floris Viers. He's making that pit stop. 5 laps accrued on the softs. He's going straight onto the mediums, and here comes Kedon Lutt now and takes the lead here at Tamburello.
With all this fight, it's good for Floris. I think he's clear for the win and he didn't want anyone to be in his DRS, so that's why, even though he could react and just pit 1 lap later than everyone else, he took the control and he pitted the earliest, and he will have a big advantage after all this fight, because they lose time now on the soft compared to the new mediums, and they are also fighting out on the track. So yeah, it's pretty tricky. Christoph, you lost 2 positions in the last lap and fell from first to third straight away, and it won't help him definitely, because you can overtake 1 person ahead, but when the person ahead as well has DRS and has slipstream, then overtaking becomes extremely challenging.
Certainly does indeed. Christoph Zeller, as you so rightly said there, Danny, losing places to Kedon, Lutt and Akinci, which certainly is going to put him on the back foot slightly, and now he has got Istvan Pukki right behind him right now, not to mention Samuel Bean, who's been making so many moves. In comes Istvan Pukki now, so that allows Samuel Bean to move up into P4, but now already Christoph Zell looking for that potential move, heading down in towards Tamburello. Can he make the move? Not this time. Akinci holding on to P2, getting it back after obviously that little incident that forced him off track, but Kedon Lutt now leading the way with Akinci in behind, heading into the Villeneuve chicane now this time, semi-chicane of sorts, now making the climb up towards Tosa. We got 4 cars in the pit lane now already, Istvan Pukki being one of them, Norbert Jakob, Ulas Ozyildirim, not to mention Szabó-Kónyi in the pits as well, but we're back now into pretty much a DRS train at this point, with only the top 6 currently sitting on soft tyres, with then Louis Welch in behind. Can I just add, Louis Welch only 8 tenths, now 9 tenths in behind Piotr Stachulec, as we see Akinci running wide. He seems to be struggling with the circuit, Danny.
Not sure if it's the right strategy for the first 3 runners. I think they will be pretty heavily undercut. Floris Viers is doing awesome lap times, as I see from the Delta, compared to others. So it will be pretty interesting to see where they come out on track after they make their pit stop. I think probably nearly everyone goes in the pit this lap. Christoph stayed out and he can open the DRS for this straight. I think he will use plenty of his energy to maybe have a little bit of an upper momentum and do something different that the other done. It's pretty interesting for me, the incident, because Christoph definitely doesn't have front wing damage, and he definitely didn't even want to overtake. He just traveled in the slipstream and with the DRS and saved some fuel, saved some of his battery, and he still hit the guy off track. I don't know what will happen there, but we see now Floris Viers overtaking everyone who was behind. Now compared to Kedon Lutt, he has a 3 seconds advantage, so he added another 1 second advantage, and if he doesn't make big mistakes here, no one will ever catch him.
Yeah, he's got a huge opportunity here, and Floris Viers, who's been working so hard to bring back his pace, to get back to the level he was before, former F1 esports driver for Haas, and now looking to try and get himself back in the frame for a potential F1 esports seat in the future. Who knows, he could well do it. And I've got to say, a win here today could be a great start, maybe give him the confidence that is so desperately needed to get back to the top. But certainly we've got lots of battles still at the front though, and now we can see Christoph Zell in the pit lane now, and Samuel Bean as well. So now that's all the soft runners boxing, but look at this, medium runners coming in as well. Louis Welch coming in, Zsolt Bial coming in as well with Ido Martin. Very interesting moves being made further down the field. Floris Viers should take, and I'm sure will take, lead of this Grand Prix as he now makes his way past the DRS side. Of course, no DRS because he has no cars ahead of him. Here comes Floris Viers now. Does he clear the lot of them? He certainly does. Floris Viers takes the lead of the race, absolutely after pit stops here, Danny.
Yeah, and I'm hearing information that Christoph gave the position back to Akinci on purpose to maybe avoid the penalty, but now we see that Christoph actually has a penalty. I'm not sure if it's a 3 seconds for corner cutting or it's maybe a 5 seconds for speeding in the pit. It's a 5 seconds penalty. We got it updated. That's terrible news for him. Within 5 seconds there is like 5 players to him. That's terrible. That's terrible. That's the biggest mistake you could ever do in any esports race, to speed in the pit, and he didn't lose any position with this. This was not something he will be happy about.
No, not at all. That is going to be so painful, and it will drop him down the order quite a bit, certainly given the Delta times are where they are right now. He's currently sitting 6 tenths or 7 tenths in behind Akinci, but also crucially Samuel Bean is in behind
What's
as well.
With penalty?
It's a penalty for Floris Viers. That's extraordinary. We'll take a look to see. 3 seconds and off track. He went over the line, and that's cost him as well. So once again, the lead has been thrown a bit into question. Maybe an outside chance for Kedon Lutt here, the way things are going right now here, Danny.
I don't know, man. Floris is leading by 2.8 seconds, so he can theoretically still win this race, and obviously players second, third, fourth, they can still receive a penalty, but it will be extremely tricky for him, and I don't see if anyone pushed him wide, so I don't think any of these warnings can be removed. Maybe if he got a double warning or a 3 warning at one turn, then it can be dealt with, but obviously that's a big mistake for him now as well, because he is not really under pressure from anyone at this moment.
No, he's not at all. I have to say, Flores currently sitting 2.8 seconds in front of Kedon Lutt. Obviously, if that delta stays behind the 3-second mark, Kedon Lutt will be crowned the winner here at Imola for this very first race of the championship. Obviously, points speed prizes, folks. All of this goes towards a big championship heading around the calendar. So we've had a look at it already. Plenty of races to come. We've got another one after this one. We will be heading to Portimao. But 6 laps of magic left here at Imola, home of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And there is Akinci now, who surely will have a chance to maybe strike here on Kedon Lutt. Kedon Lutt dragging himself over to the stand side, the paddock side. Here comes now Akinci down the inside here, heading into Tamburello. The Red Bull into second place. Akinci showing that flare of pace, the same pace that we saw at the start of this Grand Prix, and now he's chasing after Flores Fiers. Akinci in the frame for a potential race win here tonight.
Look how awesome the DRS was. He gained 7 tenths only in the first sector compared to Flores. That is crazy. They were nearly outside of the 3 seconds gap, and now it's down to 2.5. If the train works together and they use ERS and then let themselves to be overtaken, and then the first one uses ERS, Flores is basically, for him it will be impossible to win this race, especially with the older tires. His distance at the front just goes down and down by every single meter of the lap, so that would be pretty disappointing. And I'm counting Christoph as well, you know, he was one of my favorites, and look how outside the field is from P4 to basically P18. Everyone is within the DRS of the other. Christoph at this moment, for only a couple of kilometers per hour of speeding in the pit, won't score points, any points from P4, which is absolutely crazy. It's that tight.
Oh, and it's
look at
so close here. Yeah, between Christoph Zell and certainly Kedon Lutt as well, who's just dropped down the field again, nearly running off to the grass. Got so tight between the pair, but Kedon Lutt refusing to give up. They head down into Villeneuve. Does he open up the door? Not just yet. We're now seeing them rise up through shortly around towards Tosa. Is it going to be a late move for Kedon Lutt? No, not this time, but I have to say, how close did they get, Danny? Oh, so close. Heading into Tamburello, that could have been a disaster.
Yeah, it's pretty risky, and also overtaking on the grass, it's not what you see every day. Even in the game it's quite challenging, especially when there are curves, because the floor is pretty low of these cars, and you can easily get the floor to the I'm shouting because Akinci got a penalty as well. Look at that, his P2 is gone. His P2 is gone, not even P2, P1. If he didn't have a penalty now, he could win this race. He even has a puffer with Christoph being third, who has a 5 seconds penalty. The luxury is gone for him. Drivers making mistake.
I mean, Flores now surely is now back again the favourite to win this now, because like you say, a big cushion in behind. Akinči's deficit now means nothing, as now we're seeing Samuel Bean making a move himself into Tamburello. This time on Kedon Lutt, who could be in the frame to lose another place. Oh, dearie me. Huge incident there, and crawling down the field is Samuel Bean. He was so quick in his first stint, but loses it heading into Tamburello after a battle with Kedon Lutt. Extraordinary scenes here at Imola.
Look at that, the ComEsports player Daniel Haddad from the last position is already up to P8. So far for me, the driver of the day was Samuel Bean, but now he is out. He gained so many positions, but now the risk didn't pay off, and there is Haddad on the soft tires behind everyone. Let's see what he can do with his experience.
Yeah, well, he's, like you say, he's a talented individual. Daniel Haddad, Aston Martin, F1 esports driver, of course, partnering up with the likes of Lucas Blakely, who was in the title fight, and certainly he himself now, Daniel Haddad, lots of pace, extraordinary talent certainly, and we'll show it here tonight, here at Imola, and also Portimao as well, when we head over to Portugal for that incredible event that we're going to be having very, very shortly, as we're now seeing them make their way past the paddock yet again. Floris Fears on top, leading the way still, has the buffer of the advantage. Here comes Christoph Zeller up into second place, who goes ahead of Akinci. Now the deficit being sprung open to 0.3 of a second. It's like, I'm not sure what you're going to call it, dominoes at the front at the moment. They're all toppling each other over, attacking each other into Tamburello. That has been the main danger. No instance of Villeneuve so far, but it's just been constant drama at Tamburello, Danny. It's extraordinary.
Look at that, Floris now leads the race compared to Kedon, or Kedon, I'm not sure how you pronounce the name of the McLaren, I'm pretty sorry. Floris leads the race by 3.1 seconds, but now as we speak, both P4 and P5 also received the 3 seconds penalty. How awesome is that? So far, Istvan Puki is in a podium position down to P6, which is absolutely crazy. I thought how expensive these penalties will be in terms of losing positions. Now Floris Fears is still in the theoretical lead because of his previous advantage, but Christoph, maybe like that, he will score some points.
He certainly will do, and that'll be massive towards the championship. Obviously, points mean prizes, folks. I keep saying it, but it doesn't make it any less true. And here comes Akinci now, round the outside now of Christoph Zeller, into Tamburello. The Red Bull up into second place. Extraordinary stuff here indeed. Lap 15 of 16. 2 laps left to go. Floris Fears leads, but the deficit between Akinci and Floris Fears is coming down every step of the way. We're down to nearly a second. Can we see a last lap of drama here, Danny?
I'm not sure. Akinci is flashing. Floris is flashing at the front. When you flash your wheel right and it's not wet condition, it means your battery charge is under 10%. So they are both on the limit. But Floris just made the biggest mistake of this race. He got another penalty, man. 3 seconds. Why he's in the lead? Why did he do that? This was completely stupid, I'm sorry to say. 6 seconds, this is too much.
Absolutely. Well, I've got to say, honesty where it's appropriate, certainly from Dániel Bereznay, saying that it is a serious problem for Floris Fears. 6 seconds of penalties is going to be a huge setback to his winning hopes, and certainly now the pressure's on, because this could be the move for the win here. That's Christoph Zell, who's now holding on to second place. He's holding on to it for now, but remember, 5 seconds of penalties for Christoph Zeller. What about Akinci being thrown into the mix? Istvan Puki's got 3 seconds as well. Extraordinary scenes here with only moments left to go. We're on the final lap. Floris Fears leads the way, but the gap is being brought down by every step of the way. If Christoph Zeller can overtake Floris Fears, put a car in between him and Akinci, he could still win this race as he now makes his way up through towards the next left, now heading down towards the descent towards Acqua Minerale. It is still Floris Fears on top. Danny, any thoughts on this? Who's your pick to win this race?
Akinci will win this race, but it will be a very tight margin with actually Milan Mayer down in the 7th place in the Alfa Romeo. I don't think he ever thought he will compete for the win, but he kept it clean. He is the first player to keep it clean down to P7, and he will definitely step up of the podium like that if he just completes this last lap right. They are through the final turn, and it's a bit of a slidey exit for everyone. Floris wins on track, but I think Akinci will win.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Akinci wins the first race here, this time at Imola, here in the FuturEsportS FES 3 League. Extraordinary result, certainly to say the least. Drama throughout the race. Christoph Zeller managing to stay in the top 3, as well as Milan Mayer gaining that crucial podium as well in 3rd. Amazing stuff indeed. Danny, what are your thoughts after that one?
Just thoughts that I'm waiting for the result screen, and look at the gaps between the drivers. These penalties make everything even tighter than it was on track. There are drivers that are separated only by a couple of hundredths of a second, which is absolutely crazy. This race was a roller coaster for a spectator as well. We thought that Floris is clear, but then in the penultimate lap he made a mistake, and then Akinci, he made it the clearest relatively compared to the others and won the fight on the track for P2, and then he could win this race. But this is absolutely crazy. I told about penalties. I never imagined this will be that much penalty.
No, that's extraordinary. I mean, going back to what you were saying about the times, they are literally minimal. You can just see the penalty sprinkled across the top, and I get the feeling that is the talking point to this race. Akinci wins, though, folks, for Red Bull. Obviously managing to get back on top after that little scare moment that he had earlier on in the race where he fell off the track going through Tamburello after a collision with Christoph Zell. Christoph Zell himself, in fact, managed to get a P2 with Milan Meyer in P3. FES managing to scoop up P2 and P3. Floris Viers, unfortunately, out into P4. But how about Daniele Haddad? That is extraordinary. P5 from the back of the grid, Danny. That is incredible, don't you think?
Yeah, and I have an extra information about Daniele Haddad as well. He accidentally loaded in the Portugal setup for Imola. And you know, it's Parc Fermé, so you cannot change it, and these setups are completely different, but he is streaming, so we see he paid attention to the chat too much. That's the hindering part of content creation, and he actually loaded in the wrong setup, and these are completely different circuits, so who knows? Wow. Maybe he would have been the guy to challenge from the win with all these penalties, even starting the race from the last place. That is absolutely crazy, but I didn't know that Floris Viers will make such mistakes. You maybe win half a tenth, 1/10, 1.5 tenths with corner cutting, but there is all the penalties that you lose so much time. It's not worth to risk it, and we see that in the official esports. I think nearly no one got penalty, and it was a longer race. It was a 35% race, and this is only 25%. So definitely these young players are a little bit more aggressive than the esports players like Haddad. But even Christoph, okay, he sped in the pit, but for corner cutting he didn't get any penalty neither, and that actually saved his race at the end of the race, and he kept on fighting, and we thought he won't be able to finish points, and it certainly looked like that why no one other had a penalty, and he still finished second. He's finished second with a 5 seconds penalty, which is absolutely crazy. I'm pretty sure he's immensely happy with that.
Oh, I'd imagine he is absolutely delighted. I mean, going back to what you said about Christoph Zell, you're absolutely spot on, Danny. I mean, it's so easy to make mistakes, obviously, in this game, because especially when you're going at such pace as well, it's fine margins at the end of the day. You only have to be a little late for your braking point and go across the pit entry line and be doing it too quickly and then get slammed with a 5-second penalty. And it's so brutal because, of course, given the delta times in between each of the drivers, it can make all the difference from maybe finishing in P1 to maybe finishing in P15. We've seen it before, and it is very, very painful, certainly a very painful way to lose a race in F1 esports. But what a performance from Daniele Haddad. I mean, that was absolutely extraordinary. I mean, back of the grid into P5. I mean, we rave about his talent, and you know, he's an extraordinary figure, has performed very well for Aston Martin in the past, certainly in F1 esports, but has come here tonight, certainly, and you'd say, loaded up the wrong setup, as well as many other things, but then all of a sudden, managing to perform at that very late stage, getting a P5 from the back of the grid. That is just a sensational performance, isn't it?
Yeah, that was pretty awesome to see. And also they got unlucky with the Samuel beam spin, because when Samuel spun in the battle, then, you know, one person, it was out of the DRS train, and then, you know, there was a gap, more than a 1 second gap, and then they just couldn't reduce it, and the DRS train basically split it up, and that was actually the luck of the leaders. If the DRS train would have stick together, then the first guy without a penalty would have won this race. But these fights sometimes break up the field, and it certainly helped the ones who received a penalty today, and it helped Haddad to hunt more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to seeing what happens now heading into the next race, should we say, at Portimao. We'll actually take a look at some of the track facts, because while we've got a spare moment, obviously we're waiting for the lobby to be set up, and we'll just bring you back with us in the room here for the broadcast live cameras so you can see us. Big hello. But yes, 4.653 meters is part of the track here at the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. We've got 15 turns here, of course. 4.653 miles, should I say, not miles. Portimao as well is the name of the circuit, obviously. But then, of course, we've got 1 minute 18.750 is the the optimal lap time here. I mean, obviously, looking at these, I think we'll definitely see quicker laps than that, Danny. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Algarve circuit of Portimao? Like we said before, a roller coaster, certainly lots of different bends, sections, uphills, downhills, left right-handers, right-handers, 90-degree right-handers, progressive bends, lots of throttle feathering as well. I mean, it's just got everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a circuit for Jenson Button style of drivers. You really need to manage your tires, especially the rear tires, with all those exits which are turning, going uphill. You need to apply your throttle precisely, and the last sector, especially the last sector, is pretty technical with long sweeping turn, long sweeping exits, and by that time, if your tires are overheated, you lose a lot of time. If you kept your lap clean beforehand, you can gain a lot of time and then you can overtake. For the race in Portugal, it will be pretty tricky, as in this game, you gain around 3% of ERS per lap, even if you don't use it. As soon as you use a little bit of energy, you are going down with the battery, and it will take 5 to 10 laps to recharge that battery again. Which is absolutely crazy. This is even crazier than Imola. You really need to think about who you fight and when you fight, and the most strategical people will win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we want to hear from you as well, folks. So obviously, going off the back of what we saw at Imola, please, obviously, leave your comments in the live chat. We will read them out as well, because I can see you guys have been so active in the chat. It's brilliant to see. Thank you all so much for joining us. I mean, obviously, now, any moment now, we will be going into the lobby for Portimao, but I can see you all getting really hyped about it. What were your favourite moments from Imola? Was there one moment that caught your eye, or an incredible battle that you might have seen, or a driver that caught your eye as well? We want to hear from you, so please leave your comments in the live chat. We will read them out. But yeah, looking ahead to Portimao, obviously, like you said, we've discussed the circuit, discussed the track. Obviously, points in the bag now here at Imola. Now, does this put pressure on some of those drivers that didn't perform the way they'd want to at Imola? Do you think this will stir something up inside them, Danny, that will make them try maybe riskier moves heading into Portimao?
Yeah, I think it definitely does, even if you don't think about it. You always look at a night as a whole, and then if the first part of the night didn't come as planned, then you try to compensate, and it's not so good. You should always forget about the past and try to think with a clear head and only pay attention for the next steps ahead. But I'm sure the drivers who didn't finish in the top 10 in Imola will definitely do whatever it takes to finish in the top 10 this time. And this is not a long championship, not 23 races and like in real life. So these mistakes matter a lot more than it would matter in a longer championship.
No, absolutely. It's all about just measuring yourself across an entire season. Maybe take the pressure off a little bit. A lot of drivers don't perform 100% under pressure, do they? I mean, it's a case of being perhaps a little bit patient, you know, and get yourself set or get yourself back into the correct mindset for the start of a race. And certainly at Portimao, you need the correct mindset. It's very testing. Certainly the main point, I suppose, I think we'll be seeing lots of overtakes is into Tora Vip, the hairpin. I think is going to be a big major point as well. But then, of course, you've got the Portimao corners, not to mention the Craig Jones bends as well. But there's so many to be very, very cautious about. Certainly, it's a very oversteery track, I think, on many an occasion. I think, would you find that oversteer is going to be your biggest issue around Portimao?
Yeah, you need to have a really stable setup at the rear end to compensate that. But obviously, then it's pretty hard to overtake. As when you get behind another car, the turbulent air catches the front wing first and you mainly lose front downforce. So it's basically two different setups that you would need for overtaking and for leading the race alone. So it's up to the drivers what they select, and obviously they need to perform well in the qualifying as well. So you need to find the right balance. The only things you can change in the setups between the qualifying and the race is the front wing. I think the drivers will reduce the front wing by 1 click for the race to generate a more stable car. And also the tire pressure, you can change it from the qualifying to the race. In the qualifying, obviously the fastest tire pressure is the best, but for the race you need to keep in mind the tire wear. Even in this short distance it matters. And especially overheating, it really matters, because the last sector is the place when you can actually make the moves done. Even if you overtake in the straight, the work is done in the last sector, and if you overheat in the last sector, no matter how fast you are in the first two, you won't be able to make a single move.
Yeah, is that final exit a key point, Danny? That swooping right-hander heading down? Is that going to be a very important point? I think just carrying the throttle, I think, is going to be so key, isn't it?
Yes, and when you're nervous, obviously your legs don't act as calm, and then maybe not as accurate. So maybe in big fights we see some big slides, and this even rhymes.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. You're a wizard when it comes to poetry, my friend. Obviously, we want to look at, obviously, if we're talking about pedals, might have been, you're a master when it comes to using the brake pedal. I've never seen someone hit it so hard in all my life. It's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. It's an art. We'll call it an art, I think, is probably what we'll call it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it has some long-term benefits as well, but I mean health benefits. I'm sure my back doesn't like it as much, but that's why I should win early to be able to retire like Rosberg did, maybe.
No, it's a good thought. It's a very, very good thought. Obviously, it's going to be great and interesting to see how you perform as well next week, when of course we head to our next run of circuits. Obviously, we could take another look at the track map as well. Sorry, not the track map, the calendar, ladies and gentlemen. So, Danny, we'll be seeing you at Spielberg and Silverstone, of course. So that's going to be a very interesting set of races. Certainly, the Red Bull Ring is an extraordinary circuit, to say the least. We're going to be heading there for Event 2 on the 15th of February, folks, after, of course, today. And then, of course, we got Silverstone then after that on the 15th as well. But just look at the raft of circuits we have got here in amongst us as well. The 1st of March heading to Zandvoort in the Netherlands, as well as Spa-Francorchamps as well the same night. At Belgium. The 15th of March for Event 4 is Italy, the Temple of Speed at Monza, as well as Austin, Texas, the United States Grand Prix, as well as on the 29th of March for the final night, Event 5, Mexico City at the Autodromo in Mexico. It is going to be a sensational event, that one, with Brazil following that one as well at Sao Paulo. We're going to be in for a real treat right through this season. It's going to be extraordinary. We're very, very close to getting ready for the start of Portimao, ladies and gentlemen. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts heading into Portimao? How do you rate the circuit of Portimao? Certainly on the tier of favourites, Danny, where does Portimao sit?
For me, it's Christoph again. He practiced super hard the one-shot qualifying. He has been pretty good at it. He loves the track. But I think also Daniel Haddad will be awesome. Stachulec will be awesome. And also Floris Swiers will be awesome again. But even in this track, the track invalidation, it's pretty easy to go wide with 4 wheels. We see even Max Verstappen in real life. He lost his pole position in 2021 going out the track uphill in the first sector at the pretty end. So in this one-shot qualifying that we will have, it will be all a risk reward management again, because you don't have a second run to compensate. You don't have a second run to maybe send it more. So you need to find the perfect balance to send it, but to be really safe, because when you invalidate, you can fall back to the last place, and obviously it's not worth it, because we spoke about it. It's not a long race, and with the ERS it will be pretty difficult to overtake, and here I don't think the medium soft strategy will work so well, just because the track position is a key factor. So I think everyone should qualify as high as possible, and everyone should try to get as high up on the field as possible at the early stages of the race, and then defend for dear life.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think the penalties are going to be a very big talking point here as well?
I think it's a little bit easier, maybe because of the curbs compared to Imola, because Imola, sometimes you don't want to cut, but the curb throws you off, and then you end up cutting. In here, it's more about high speed accuracy, because the curves are quite flat, so you can do the ideal racing line no matter what. But obviously if you load in a pretty stable setup and then you understeer out of the track because of too much entry speed, then you will still receive a warning. So I think some drivers will definitely get a penalty, but I'm hoping for less than Imola, and especially now as drivers saw that everyone who didn't receive penalty in Imola, how much positions they gained at the end of the race. I think that's an internal motivation to now keep it clean and maybe benefit of other mistakes and not be the one who suffers.
No, wise words certainly from yourself, Danny, and be interested to see how the drivers cope with that. Obviously, I think the likes of Flores Viers is certainly going to be out there looking to try and certainly make a statement, certainly to say the least. His pace was impressive at Imola, but the issue is the penalties. That is what he needs to correct. So can he do that at Portimao? That is the big question, folks. Like you say, you guys have been hammering up this live chat. It's been brilliant to see. A lot of support for Zell as well, for Zella. Obviously, another big talking point, getting P2 in that previous race as well. He, in fact, going toe-to-toe with Akinci. Those two nearly both taking each other out off at Tamburello in our last race. Of course, it would be Akinci who went off onto the gravel trap, but luckily enough, managed to keep the car straight, get it back onto the track, and although he lost 2 places, he fought back and got himself back up the near top anyway. So brilliant performance to say the least. But the likes of Dániel Bereznay, what's he going to do now as we're about to get into the session now, folks. Now, obviously, he's going to be coming into this certainly all guns blazing, isn't he, Danny? I mean, Dániel Bereznay, we know a lot about him. We know what his talent's like. We just saw an incredible race where he went from last to 5th pretty much. Now that he will, I'm sure, have the correct setup heading into qualifying now for this one shot, do we see him as the potential favourite for this one?
I'm not sure if he is the favorite for the qualifying, but he is more favorite for the race, in my opinion. As Aston Martin F1 Esports had pretty great race pace as well. Lucas Blakely won the race here, and he even broke the DRS train, so that's pretty impressive to do. If Dániel Bereznay still has that setup, and he definitely has the talent, then he can maybe do the same, but I'm not sure if he will get the pole position. Oh, this overrides everything, guys. It's heavy rain in the qualifying, and now this overrides everything, and not only because it's more difficult, but if the race is dry, then you still need to run a dry setup, and the dry setups can be so different, and one dry setup is the same fast in the dry compared to the other setup, but maybe one dry setup works better, a lot better in the wet conditions than the other one's dry setup. And obviously this will be even more challenging. Players are not used to these conditions. They practice wet a lot less than what they practice dry conditions. And the sweeping turns, aquaplaning, it's super easy to lose the backhand. You need to be super precise, and you know, the corner cutting, as I talked about, and the slippery curves will be even more interesting to see. Now maybe a calm Dániel Bereznay, he's the man for pole, maybe.
I tell you what, I said it, I think he could be the man, and Danny, you might have proven my point now that we have the rain tumbling down and they're all coming out to the bout now, and I think we will ride on board with Dániel Bereznay if we can get hold of him here. Of course, there's a lot of jostling around as the deltas are flickering on our screens, but we will join Dániel Bereznay for a lap as we join the race screen, folks. We're now going to get set for this qualifying session, one-shot quali, as we're now riding on board with that man Dániel Bereznay coming around this next right-hander, full wet weather tyres donned to the car now, heading up through the next left. He is now going to make the next straight down towards Toro Vip. This is usually where you'd have DRS, but obviously given the fact that we have wet weather conditions, no DRS, but he breaks to the 100, sends it into Toro Vip. Just look at that wheel control coming out of that bend now, heading up through the next left, and he's got another double right-hander to take. This will very soon send him on this uphill trend. Now, this is where you can oversteer. You've got to be so careful at this point of the track. He, again, feathers the throttle, a bit of wheel play to get himself back straight and narrow. This is an impressive visit from Dániel Bereznay, isn't it, Danny?
Yeah, car control is on the ultimate level, and there are turns that are nearly flat but not flat, and just to leave 10-15% of throttle position is pretty hard to do. Dániel Bereznay has been in the lead for nearly the entire lap, but now he completely loses the backhand. He was P2 Miklavčič overtook him, but now he's down to P6, and we see new names like Zoltán Boda up there, Akinci from the last great performance, he is up to P2. It's all about the final turns now. Rear tires completely overheated for Dániel Bereznay, huge mistake, and Miklavčič won the qualifying session by quite a margin. Oh my god, 7/10 of a second. That's awesome. He should be really proud.
He should be, and he was on intermediate tyres, different compound to what Dániel Bereznay was wearing.
Oh.
That's incredible. So you got to give Miklavčič all the credit.
What a strategy!
A huge
Who
strategy.
dares to do that?
Yeah, majority.
Oh my god.
If you look at the majority on wet, so you've got the top 10. There's 4 drivers on intermediate tyres. So does that mean to say that it is intermediate conditions? Who knows? Primož Miklavčič on pole. Akinci in second place. Full wets for him. Samuel Bean in third as well. Louis Welch gets on the pad. Extraordinary, of course. He uses the pad on this game. So no wheel for him, but manages to get it within a second of Primož Miklavčič on intermediate tyres. How about that gap, though? Primož Miklavčič, 7.5 tenths clear on pole position, Danny. That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's an awesome gap. Obviously, different tire compounds. We see that names that we didn't see in the top 10 in the previous year now can be in the top 10 because of the intermediates. So maybe that gave an advantage. And we saw what I told with Haddad. Overheating was the key factor. The track was maybe too dry for the wet tires, and Haddad already had moments on the rear end, and you should never have that in the wet, because you need to keep it calm. Once you overheat them, you have no chance, and in the long turns he definitely overheat them with drifting, and then he basically lost time on and on from drifting, and basically the guy on pole, he literally won every single tenth of his advantage in the last sector, which means that the intermediates that operate in a higher temperature really gained that advantage in the last sector, and it was more like a steel battle in the first two and more about survival, and then in the last he could really use the benefits. But now the race, or actually the formation lap, will start pretty soon, and it's still raining, so it's a full rainy race weekend. Everyone will probably use full rainy setups, so yeah, and overtaking will be even more difficult, as in the rain you don't have any DRS, and I see nearly everyone starting the race on intermediates, so it's not full wet. If it would be full wet but drying up, it would be another interesting factor to see, like a Jarno Oppmeyer strategy, where he was the only guy in China in esports who saved a pit stop with already starting the race on inters, and then when it was the switchover point, he needed to visit a pit one last time, but now it's not the case. Everyone on inters, so this will be a pretty hard race for everyone who is out of the top 10 to score some points. And we see Stachulec, he was in the lead of Imola, and now he is down to P18. So this is really not a great first event from him. We see Bence Szabó-Kónyi, he is also a pretty talented Hungarian, he is not in the top 10 once again. We see Christoph, he was in the net lead of the qualifying at some point of the lap. He was always around P4, P3, but he also overheated the tires at the end of the lap, and now he is down to P10. And also Haddad, who you thought is the favorite, he is down to P9, and it's not dry conditions, it will be pretty damn hard to overtake from him. And we see Louis Welch, who disqualified himself from the opening lap, and I think it will be tricky, because if the tires will be cold for him at the start, then he will lose a lot of places, but maybe with the controller, when the direction switches doesn't need to be that accurate in the wet, as everything happens slower, he can have some advantage and maybe even finish on the podium if this formation lap didn't hit him off so bad. And there is Samuel Bean, who had a miracle start in Imola, and he lost it all with the spin, but now he can prove again he is awesome, and he can finish on the podium from P3 definitely. All he needs to watch behind and not lose a position, and maybe gain the advantage of a battle at the front.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to seeing what he can do. He's in prime position, 3rd place on the grid. Primož Miklavčič, who was at the front as well in Imola, is now back on top here at Portimao. Akinci alongside him, of course, one of the heroes from race 1. Please leave your comments in the live chat, folks. Please lay your votes in the live chat. We have got the lights now all up and running. It's all 5 lights are lit. And it's pedal to the metal. Go, 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 go. We're away for race 2 here of event 1 here at Portimao. And Primož Miklavčič, not wasting any time. He leads the way to turn 1. Samuel Baena into 2nd place. Akinci as well with Zoltán Boda now trying to make his way through past Štěpánek. Trying to find that inside line to help him out here as they come through the first turning now. Louis Welch under pressure as he now faces Akinci, who's dropped back 2 places off the front row of the grid as they come down towards Tora Vip. Here comes Jeffrey Ritchie as well. Inside line as well for Zoltán Boda. Ulas Ozyildirim off the track. Incredible scenes. But what a start though from Primož Miklavčič. He's held on really well, Danny.
Zsolt in the Ferrari, he jumped the start. It's also pretty rare to see, but the field relatively kept everything quite clean. Everyone is within 2 to 3 to 4 tenths of a range compared to each other. I don't see flying wings, I don't see spinned off cars, which is pretty impressive, to be honest. In the wet, it's pretty easy to lose the back end, and especially when you make some contact with the others, it's a lot hard to correct. So hats off to them.
Yeah, absolutely. We can now see Milan Meyer scrapping it out with Piotr Stachulec. Jeffrey Ritchie as well in the midst of a fight. He's now right on the outside of Zoltán Boda. These two have been fighting it out now all lap long. Wheel to wheel now heading down the final corner and still trying to hold up. But look at this. Štěpánek looking to make it a 3-wide affair as they head down the straight. There's Zoltán Boda alongside him. Štěpánek coming in to join them. It's 3 wide into turn 1. 3 into 1. Don't go. Surely not. 3 of them still together wheel to wheel as they head around turn 2 in towards turn 3. It is still Štěpánek. Oh my word, oh my dearie me, it is Jeffrey Ritchie off the track, and I believe Štěpánek's off as well. They're back on immediately on a busy road, but it just goes to show, Danny, you can't go 3 wide into turn 1.
They do every mistake that they can do in this series and maybe try to avoid them in the actual challenger stuff. I don't know, they were super aggressive 3 wide. I was thinking, how did they survive? But then they didn't survive, they just prolonged the death 1 turn ahead, and then they all spin off the track. It's pretty easy, cars stick together, moving wheels stick together. 3 wide is not something you do. From Stachulec, that's an awesome switchback on the entry, and he is already up to P10 from starting the race in P18. Awesome stuff in the wet. It's pretty hard to overtake there, but going back to the action at the start, yeah, everyone was pretty aggressive, and they paid the full price for it. I think the car on the outside or on the middle, especially when the middle car is the one car that is the most behind compared to others, needs to back out of these actions. As you know, you will never make it.
Yeah, and Floris Viers has gone for a spin and he's rooted to the back of the field. He spun on the straight, just leaving the final corner, and now he's got to come in for a front wing change. So that is absolutely brutal for Floris Viers. He's actually retired from the session, so he's gone. He is gone. We've lost Floris Viers. There's Ulas Ozyildirim now half a second back, and certainly now trying to challenge on Akinci as they come down into Tora Vip. Half a second the deficit between them. Daniel Haddad now trying to scrap here with Norbert Jakob, who now takes him around Tora Vip. Daniel Haddad back on the throttle, feathers it slightly, and you can just see him there, wheel to wheel now with the Alfa Tauri. The pair of them together. Haddad going for a very deep dive on the outside. That is a brilliant move from Daniel Haddad in the Aston Martin, and now he's clear of Norbert Jakob. 0.6 of a second is the deficit with Zoltán Boda in behind. Incredible drama already, Danny, but Floris Viers unable to recover after that disappointment at Imola.
And you see, it's only lap 3, but the wet conditions are pretty tricky, and already 2 people have 3-second time penalties. And 1 person in the top 10, Ulas Ozyildirim, has already a 3 seconds time penalty, and it's not even midway through the race. So maybe there will be even more penalties at Imola. Who knows? This is still a very long race.
It certainly is. Plenty to go. Lap 4 of 17. We've still got plenty left. 13 laps remain. Zoltán Bial now has retired from the session, so we got more yellow flags in Sector 3. 3 DNFs already. Istvan Pukki, who was one of the danger men in our previous race, he is out of the race, as well as Zoltán Bial, as well as Floris Fiers as well. So Jeffrey Ritchie now at the very back, cemented behind Istvan Nagy there, who's currently in P15. Kedon Lutt in 14th. In front of those as well. We can now see Szabó-Kónyi now heading down the inside now. What looks to be Milan Mayer alongside him. Remember, Mayer was the one who managed to get P3 at the end of Imola, but now it's Szabó-Kónyi who moves up into 12th place and rises up through the next straight, with Milan Mayer now at the mercy of Kedon Lutt, who's managed to garner himself a little bit of delta on the car ahead of him. They come down now into the next left, and soon as they now make their way around the Portimao corner, you can now see them literally nose to tail here in this bottom of the classification, or certainly the bottom 10 of the classification. Szabó-Kónyi trying to close the gap on Ido Martin, who he himself is trying to close on Zoltán Boda. There's a healthy gap in between all of them here as Jeffrey Ritchie manages to move himself up into P15. So good showing from him. Daniel Iadad as well in the frame, but just look at this. Primož Miklavčič set in the fastest lap of the race, a 1:25.6. So not bad at all, and he's already cleared Samuel Bean by 1.5 seconds. Here comes Daniel Iadad now, trying to close on Zeller, who's currently making his way around the first corner now. Christoph Zeller doing very well to hold on to P6 for now, but I have to tell you, nothing is safe with Daniel Iadad on your tail, Danny.
Yeah, and he already gained plenty of positions at the start, but Sally as well. They both started either in the 10th position or out of the top 10, so that's pretty impressive. And also what Miklavčič is doing, that's also pretty impressive. He is keeping himself very clear compared to the others. No penalty and quite a safe gap in the front, and we have a controller player on the provisional podium at the moment. Luis Weg looking quite safe from Akinci as well. Ozyildirim behind him has a 3 seconds penalty, so if he just doesn't risk too much, then he can be on the podium, and I'm sure it will be a pretty big achievement in a strong field like that, with not even the right equipment to play with.
No, not at all. And do you know what? He absolutely astounds me every time he gets out on track, does Louis Welch. It's a true testament to his ability on a pad that he can compete with all of those on the wheel as well. Obviously, all those guys who have advanced force feedback, you know, they have a good measure of response between them and the car. Obviously, Louis Welch doesn't have any of that at this moment in time, as we can now see further up. Ulas Ozyildirim getting closer and closer to Akinci, but the problem that Ulas has is that he does have a time penalty, so no matter if he does overtake Akinci, it could be the case that Akinci gets him back on penalties. So there we have it. You know, only 2 drivers currently have penalties at this moment in time. Istvan Nagy, who's at the back of the field, currently the last of the running cars, and of course Ulas Ozyildirim in P5 also has a penalty too. So as they come around Tora Vip, Primož Miklavčič still holding on to an advantage of 1.1 seconds. There's now a near 1.3 second gap between Samuel Bean and Louis Welch as well. Akinci in behind those, with Ulas Ozyildirim starting to get closer and closer on Akinci. Huge opportunities here for Ulas Ozyildirim as they head now down the hill in through the next left. Christoph Zeller in behind them as well in P6, with Daniel Iadad chasing him as well. Plenty of action still to come, and I get the feeling that the pit stops are going to be the crucial moment in this race, Danny.
I'm not sure if they pit stop at all, because in these weather conditions you don't need to use 2 sets of tires, so if the tire wear is good enough, then you never need to make a pit stop in this race. And I think on this game the wet tires don't wear out that fast, so it's all to play on the track. I think if guys would need to go to the pit, then they might already try an undercut, but I don't see anyone doing that. Ulas definitely needs to make somehow an overtake on Akinci, because he seems to be a lot faster. It's not easy to follow someone this close, and if he gets ahead, then maybe he can at least pull a 3 seconds gap compared to Christoph, the car behind. But we see how hard he's pushing. He has under 50% of energy, and in the wet you can recover a lot faster, as you don't spend that much time on the throttle and you spend more times on the brakes. But he's still using a lot of energy, and obviously he's on the limit of the track, limit of the car, limit of everything. In the wet conditions, the turbulent air is even more difficult to surpass, as the mechanical grip and the aerodynamical grip, the balance between the two even leans more towards aerodynamics, because mechanically you don't have as much grip because, you know, the tire is bad. So you lean on more the aero and the downforce, and obviously you lose quite a few percentage of downforce when you are close behind someone. So that's why it's also pretty hard to overtake, and the vision is worse as well with all the spray coming up to your screen. But some of these esports drivers turn off the graphic settings, so you don't see particles that much, just as we see in the broadcast as well, but it's still not as good as in dry. And obviously the major hit is the missing of the DRS, the drag reduction system, and you see Ulas getting another 3 seconds penalty. Basically he seems to not even care about the points. He just wants to get ahead and step on the podium, even if he needs to come off after the penalties. He still wants to finish ahead on track, and he risks too much. But I think if you want to fight for a championship, then you need to appreciate P5, P6, even P7 results are a lot better than some of these drivers do. Sometimes I feel like these drivers lose maybe 1, 2, 3 races. They are still in the points, but they feel like their race is over, which is not how it works.
No, not at all. And I have to say, this is what happens. Certainly when we've got a very small format or a short format, obviously 17 laps, in this race, it leaves very little opportunity to make use of a good, decent strategy. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, those who may choose to go on, should we be in dry conditions, go for a harder tyre to start the race, it could put them at a very, very good advantage. But we'll have to wait and see now what the wet weather can deliver, certainly on this occasion. Obviously, currently, Primož Miklavčič enjoying himself right now, but incidentally, Samuel Bean has broken into that second gap. It's now within 0.8 of a second. So, you know, he could go close here. Dániel Bereznay setting a fastest lap again as well with a 1:25.366. So he's starting to close up now on Christoph Zeller, though plenty of action happening towards the rear end, though, as we're now seeing Jeffrey Ritchie get closer and closer himself now. And Kedon Lutt, these two have been dueling it about as well quite a bit here. Kedon Lutt a little tail happy heading through turn 1, as we now see Jeffrey Ritchie now just crawling the car through, sends it up the inside now. Look at the tap on the rear wheel. It's getting so close between all of these guys now. Can Jeffrey Ritchie make a move heading into Toro Vip? He could very well leave a late break. He swerves, takes the outside, sold the dummy to Kedon Lutt, heading now into Toro Vip. Still wheel to wheel off the track now does the Mercedes, as they now climb up the incline, heading through the next left into a double right now. The Mercedes is on top, but here comes Kedon Lutt. Has he got enough in the tank? No. Jeffrey Ritchie, what a move, incredible move. That is something we love to see.
You don't see a dummy to the outside too much. You see dummies to the inside, but not to the outside, and he made it stick. He even got pushed wide, and we know how slippery these curves are in the wet, and he still found the grip, and he still made the move possible. Well done to him. It's only for P14, but if he continues with the same motivation, he may even get into the point.
Yeah, and absolutely, motivation is the correct word, Danny. You're spot on. And we're now seeing Dániel Bereznay as well, trying to make moves on Christoph Zeller. He's getting closer and closer. This is the closest that he's been so far. 3.5 of a second. He has brought it down on Christoph Zeller as they come through the next right-hander now. As they do, just feathering the throttle again into the next left still. They've got another straight to take before they reach Toro Vip. And there you can see them literally still nose to tail. But Dániel Bereznay not quite close enough to make a move, and this is the issue, isn't it? Certainly with wet weather, it's very difficult to maintain or close a gap, certainly in turbulent conditions. But we do have a duel here between Norbert Jakob and Piotr Stachulec as they make the climb up now into the next double right-hander. The Ferrari now trying to tuck it on the inside, scoops it through the next right, up the incline now, and certainly it's superb. It's Piotr Stachulec, who of course was absolutely sensational in qualifying at Imola. Still wheel to wheel here with Norbert Jakob, who's taking him all the way here in this lap 10 of 17. But it is Stachulec. Stachulec makes the move and moves up to P8.
What a comeback. Starting from the last position, he has already gained 11 places. That's totally awesome, and finally he scores some points that he really deserves. Obviously he didn't want the Imola accident to happen, but now he has a 3.4 seconds gap to come down. But ahead of him Ozil already has a 6 seconds time penalty. He's within that distance, so he's already up to P7. And maybe if the guy starts to fight really hard as the storm at the front, then he can gain some other positions as well.
You certainly can. And Samuel Bean himself now getting closer to Primož Miklavčič, and that's going to be a very mouth-watering affair, to say the least, as they're making their way around Tora Vip. Jeffrey Ritchie himself now also in the midst of a scrap as they come around the first few bends, or certainly around Sector 1, heading through the next left now, and they've got Tora Vip to take as well, as we run on board with Jeffrey Ritchie heading down now into Tora Vip. He doesn't leave a late break. He tucks himself behind Ido Martin now, crawling around this next left at the hairpin, making the incline upwards now. Still Ido Martin holding on to 13th place. Jeffrey Ritchie in 14th. There's been drama right across the circuit. We're bringing you every move possible. Jeffrey Ritchie, though, a 3-second time penalty, and that's his first time penalty of the race so far. We've got 4 drivers with penalties. Ulas Ozyildirim with 6 seconds. Jeffrey Ritchie with 3. Kedon Lutt has 3. So does Isfan Nagy down in 16th place as well. But incredible racing so far. Zoltán Boda getting closer and closer to Norbert Jakob as well as they make their way around this next right. He is currently stuck behind Norbert Jakob, and with Piotr Stachulec ahead of them as well. Plenty to offer. 5 laps to go. Who's your money on, Danny?
For the race win is definitely Miklavčič. He lost the gap, but maybe he just saves tire temperature. He maybe has his battery fully recharged, and I think having no cars in front of him, he has the cleanest there. So probably Samuel Bean won't be able to overtake him, but in the last few laps it will be definitely worth it to keep an eye on the front, as you know, one mistake here and then you are easily under pressure for a long time, because one mistake and not only you lose time, but you overheat your tires, and then you will have less grip, and then people will try to get you on the exit. But just as we speak about the win, Samuel Bean also receives a 3 seconds penalty, and this is the ultimate chance for Louis Wack, who is just at the edge of the 3 second gap. He is 2.7 behind, but if somehow he keeps it within 3 seconds, he can even become P2, starting from P4, which is already awesome, with the controller. Again, we say, with the controller, no feedback with the controller. I think he should upload this race to his Tinder profile, because his fingers must be pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think so. He's got to be. I have to say, that's extraordinary. At this moment in time, 2.8 seconds behind Samuel Bean, well within that 3 second window. Of course, 0.2 of a second within it. But here comes Dániel Bereznay now, and we've seen him so many times behind Christoph Zeller, now making his way down the straight past now the paddock. He's going to have a look down the inside into turn 1, or is he going to stick him behind now and head around turn 2? And oh, dearie me, he had to really correct the steering. He got so close to a spin, heading around turn 2. He clipped the sausage curb, and we've spoken about the sausage curbs. You were absolutely right in Imola, Danny, talking about the sausage curbs and how they can be so dangerous. Again, we see an example of that here at Portimao.
Yeah, it was a pretty big save for Haddad. We see his battery is already nearly down to 0%. If you pay attention closely on the wheel, you see that yellow line which signs how much charge you still have remaining, and he is on full attack mode. Obviously doesn't want to leave everything on the last few laps, so tries to overtake as soon as possible, and he definitely kept his tires in a better shape. As the laps go by, he keeps getting closer and closer to Christoph. But obviously when you are this close, you lose vision. And sometimes the car ahead blocks the vision to your apex, and you just need to use your rhythm to turn in, and then it's pretty easy to make some minor inaccuracy at these high speeds. And when you hit the sausage curbs, you are in turbulent there, you have the spray. It's really hard to not make a mistake, actually.
Yeah, very hard indeed.
He's close again, pretty close again, but he doesn't seem to have a really good top speed, because he's in the slipstream, but he's not closing, you see. So Christoph maybe optimized his car better for the straight lines.
Yeah, maybe Haddad's better in the corners, I think. You might be absolutely spot on. Zeller managing to hold on, at least for the time being, heading through the home stretch here. And certainly the slipstream doesn't seem to be benefiting Dániel Bereznay at the moment. Maybe Tora Vip, maybe a late lunge might be in the offing. He has a little look to maybe make a move, but he does not go for it. He decides that he's just going to just hold back and just hold on to P7. He just could not find the momentum that he needs. Ulas Ozyildirim getting closer and closer to Akinci as well. There's a battle going on there for 4th place, and certainly these two have been on the end of many fights on track before. We've seen it so many times, and you can just see there Christoph Zeller in behind these as well. So they're getting bunched up now between P's 4, 5 and 6 and 7 as well. Further up, Louis Welch currently owning the fastest lap of the race and currently in very good in a good frame of mind. He's managed to bring the gap in another 0.3 of a second between him and Samuel Bean as well, so he looks very convincing for this P2 finish. By the looks of it, obviously, like you said, Danny, no pit stops required for these guys on the wet compounded tyres, so this will very likely go to the end, and it very much looks like, unless he makes a big mistake, that Primož Miklavčič is going to win this Grand Prix. Ulas Ozyildirim in behind though, 0.3 of a second, the gap brought into near 0.2 now as he heads around the first couple of corners, still as they make their way, heading around the next right. The Red Bull powered, or the Honda powered Red Bull making its way in towards turn 3 and 4, now down the stretch lead towards Torevec, just running over the line there, Ulas Ozyildirim, but just about hanging on to the car, and certainly Akinci, 3-second time penalty for himself as well, so that could be punishing for Akinci too, Danny.
Yeah, so far Christoph and Haddad both overtake Akinci if the gap remains the same, because they are both within that 3 seconds window, and obviously it doesn't help that now he looks more to the back than at the front, because Ozyildirim is so damn close behind, but until you don't make a mistake on the braking zone, it's pretty hard to be overtaken, because exit, you keep it calm, you keep the grip, you counter steer, every little slide you will be fine, but if you lock up and you miss the apex, and in these sweeping turning entries it's pretty easy to lock up the inside or both of the front tires, then you are in trouble, and that's what people who are in the defense have to avoid in the last few laps. We see Haddad is in 0.2 of a second compared to Christoph, and now he is using his last bit of energy. Christoph is out of battery as well. Haddad chooses the outside line. I'm not sure if he tries to keep it there or tries to switch back. He fancies keeping it there. Maybe he makes a dummy, or maybe he just sticks to his original plan. Around the outside he goes. He receives a penalty. I'm not sure if it will be removed because he got a bit of a wide push, but eventually he overtakes Christoph. It was a race-long challenge and he makes it stick, and for me it was an amazing move, and I don't like the game for giving him a penalty because this was hard battle and he went off track, but he needed to avoid a collision.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're absolutely right. I think he will get that reviewed and potentially removed as well. But the important thing is he's up into P6 and could be in line for a very good finish as well. I mean, I'm not sure how close he needs to get onto a podium. It might be too much to ask, certainly with just over a lap to go. But you can just see how treacherous these conditions are, because he is on rails right now. He is on absolute rails. Daniel Haddad literally using all the wheel to keep the car on the track. We saw it in his qualifying lap. He was so aggressive, holding onto the wheel, trying to keep it between the curbs. But I have to say, it just goes to show the wet weather can be so treacherous with Formula One cars and these very powerful single-seaters. 1,000 brake horsepower behind these cars themselves. Akinci sets a 124.613, showing his pace now, trying to pull away from Ulas Ozyildirim, who's been really putting the pressure on now. But what can we say about Primož Miklavčič, Danny? It's been a stupendous performance. He has held Samuel Bean behind. He's built the gap up to 1.6 seconds, not to mention Samuel Bean has a penalty as well. It's been a good day for Miklavčič, isn't it?
It's a pretty good day for him. Sometimes the most boring people are the most successful. We didn't speak about him in quali, but he nailed the final sector with a clean lap and he got pole by more than 0.7 of a second. We didn't speak about him the whole race, but he got the win by more than 3.5 seconds if we count in the penalties as well, but 2 seconds on track. At one point Samuel Bean got quite close to him, but I think he saved some battery and saved some tires at the end, and he could pull away again. And we see Louis Welk, who not even got further of Samuel Bean, but he even got closer. And this is for me an ultimate performance with the controller, so well done to him. But now Miklavčič is through the final turn and he crosses the line.
He does. He takes victory here at Portimao under the wet weather conditions and does so with such great, superb style as well. Louis Welch into second place for the Haas team as well. On the pad in these conditions, what a performance from him, certainly. Samuel Bean as well, righting the wrongs of Imola, managing to get himself into P3 as well, with Akinci in fourth. Good day for Akinci as well, Danny. A win and a P4 here tonight. That can't be bad at all.
Yeah, I think he leads the championship with them, and he even got the fastest lap of the last race, which is an extra point added in the modern Formula 1 rules. So that's quite awesome. If you do this for 10 races, it's 10 points, it's like a P5. You should never underestimate the consistency of getting the fastest laps when you can.
No, all the points mean prizes, and I keep saying that, folks, and it doesn't mean to say it's ever true. It's always true, that's for sure, as we now see them all celebrating on the top step of the podium. Primož Miklavčič taking the win here at Portimao, and he'll be the one spraying the champagne along with the others, Louis Welch and Samuel Bean as well. What an incredible race. Hope you guys all enjoyed that as well in the live chat. It's been a privilege bringing you all this action. Let's take a look at the results for this final race of event 1. Primož Miklavčič is the winner, and he takes the W after starting on pole as well. Louis Welch in second place, P4 up into P2 with a fastest lap to boot. Not bad at all. Samuel Bean in third place as well, despite the penalty, holds on to that podium with Akinci in fourth as well after a single win at Imola, managing to pull together a P4 as well. Gives him those extra points to add to his championship conglomerate. As well as Zeller, we've got in P5 with Dániel Bereznay in 6, making moves from P9 up into P6. Been a good day in terms of fighting for Dániel Bereznay, but just could not quite do enough on the day to manage to get a podium. But what an incredible night of racing, Danny. It's been a privilege, hasn't it, to watch some of these great drivers, these up-and-comers for the future, certainly in F1 esports, battling it out in this championship environment. It's been brilliant, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was an awesome event, and I think it was a great practice for the drivers to prepare for the Challenger Series that will take place on this Thursday, the second event of the Challengers, on the exact same track, in the exact same length and calendar and weather and everything conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look forward to the next one as well, and we will obviously take a look at the calendar. Obviously, apologies for the windows, folks. We have got some interviews with us. In fact, we've got Primož Miklavčič with us. We can talk to him right now. In fact, Primož, big welcome to the commentary box, my friend. What a race from yourself. You led from start to finish, starting on pole, finishing in front as well, in such wet conditions. Just talk us through it. You must be really, really proud to win that one.
Yeah, of course, happy how the race went, controlling the race from, like you said, start to finish, and very pleased. I knew I had the pace in wet. I love wet weather, so yeah, was kind of hoping it would be wet. On Thursday as well, it's gonna be wet. So yeah, just controlling the race from start to finish. Not over pushing and making mistakes, being consistent. And just managed to get the win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a tremendous effort. I mean, certainly you weren't troubled at all throughout that race. I mean, was there ever any doubt in your mind that you could take it to the end? Did you feel that you were on edge? How was the car responding in those wet weather conditions?
I didn't have a wet setup. I kind of just adjusted my dry setup because I didn't really do wet practice. But yeah, it was a bit. I mean, I felt comfortable with it. Like I said, I didn't over push the car. Didn't want to slide through the corner. Just making sure I can get exits, and yeah, so the drivers behind me won't be able to overtake me on the straights.
Yeah, well, it was a superb effort to say the least. Danny, have you got any questions for Primož yourself?
How did you select your tires? Did you check what is the delta difference between the inters and the wet? What it showed in the qualifying session? Because I feel like that qualifying eventually won you the race and made your job quite easy at the front. How didn't you find it risky?
Yeah. The Delta said that the Inters were 20 thousandths faster than wets, so it was around same pace. But I decided to choose Inters because I think there's more potential on those tires. So yeah, just did a decent lap in qualifying, and yeah, I took the risk, I guess, and it paid off.
Yeah, well done for that.
Yeah, it was a great effort, certainly Primož, and certainly a great start to your championship repertoire. Just want to congratulate you on the win yet again. A good night for you, obviously a good event one, and we'll look forward to seeing you for event 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was Primož. We're now joined by Can Akinci, obviously one of the superstars in this event as well. Can, it was a huge effort from you, my friend. You were absolutely sensational out there tonight, and obviously looking to once again impress with us here at the FuturEsports live event. Just talk us through tonight. Obviously a win at Imola, and then followed up by a 4th place at Portimao. How are you feeling?
I'm really happy about the win, actually, because in the last Challengers events I couldn't score any points because of the crashes. But this event was, I mean, it was a motivation for me because I got the win in Imola, and we actually saw that the penalties were really crucial in the race. Because race was too close, and I was actually panicking in the middle of the race because of the penalties. I thought I was gonna be P4 or P3, something like that. But then everyone got penalty, a lot of things happened, and I got the win in there. And in Portimao, I got really low fuel, and I needed to save it in the race. So it was not ideal, but it is what it is. I'm happy with the results.
Yeah, I mean, just talk us through that incident with Christoph at Imola, because you two seem to collide heading into Tamburello. You actually ended up going off track onto the gravel. Was there a moment there where you thought that it might all be over, that there might have been a DNF for you? Just talk us through it, because it did seem that there was a little bit of contact between you two.
He didn't want to pass me, and that's normal because he didn't want to give me DRS on last lap, and he wanted to stay behind me, and he tried to bump draft, and he actually hit me a bit hard, and I went off the track. And when I went off track, I looked at the map, and then I said, oh, okay, it's not all over. I'm gonna drop right back of the Kedon. So it was not bad, but it could have been a easier win without that incident, I can say that.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Have you got a question for him as well, Danny?
No, not really. Yeah, that incident was pretty scary, and it's pretty important that you keep your head cool and rejoin the map safely, because we saw Josh Aiduvu in esports actually losing the potential win or the podium position, joining the track is exactly the same place and hitting yard no pair and spinning off out in the top 10. So well done for your clean effort and winning the race.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, Can, and obviously a great start to your championship fight. And are you looking forward to event 2?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to racing event 2. It was actually a good practice for challengers as well. Hope to see everyone on track again.
Yeah, well, we certainly will look forward to seeing you as well. So congratulations on the win tonight and the 4th place as well. And we wish you the very best of luck heading into event 2. Thank you. That was Can Akinci, everybody. I'm just going to redress the camera so we're back on the correct screens here, and we are now back with me and Danny. But Danny, a wonderful event, certainly, to cap things off, or certainly kick things off here at this wonderful esports organisation, obviously FuturEsports, giving us a huge deep dive into some of the tracks you would see in the Challenger Series and a lot of the drivers who are taking part in it as well. Just how important is it to certainly get that good start? Certainly likes of Primož, Miklavčič and Akinci. How important are those wins at this very early stage?
Yeah, you take the good momentum, you take the confidence. Sometimes this is what decides the full season, how you continue, how you go on. So this is pretty important. There is an effect called butterfly effect, and this definitely affects all other races, even if you don't think so.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we're going to be seeing you competing as well next week. We can actually have a look at the calendar obviously again and just remind you guys as to what to expect when we head into Event 2 on the 15th of February. Going to Spielberg in Austria. The Red Bull Ring is going to be the first race of that night. And then, of course, followed up by Silverstone in Great Britain, of course, the United Kingdom. And that is certainly going to be a very spectacular race as well. Danny, just looking at those tracks, can you give us an indicator of how you feel about tackling those? And certainly what your thoughts and feelings are heading into Event 2?
Yeah, I think Silverstone is one of the best tracks to battle. It offers so many positions to battle right in the first chicane, then going into left field. We see even crazy actions sometimes arriving to the Cops and the Maggots backup section, the fast turns. We have 2 DRS straights where you can be tactical with your ERS management, and in the last sector as well, sometimes we see 2-3 cars side by side. Though I really enjoy that circuit. Austria, it will be pretty challenging again with track extensions, super high speed, and you want to use every millimeter of the circuit, every inch of the curves, but if you go just a little bit over, you will receive a warning and then a penalty straight away. And that's not a long track, so there will be quite a few laps in the 25% race, and you need to be consistent to be able to finish in a high position there.
Absolutely, and I think we're going to be seeing lots more drama as well. Hopefully nothing with you involved in though, Danny. Hopefully it'll be the right drama for yourself as well, that maybe you'll get yourself a couple of wins under your belt. Who knows, maybe Danny will do the double. We'll soon find out. But anyway, folks, it's been a pleasure having every single one of you tune in tonight. We've seen 2 very, very spectacular races, 2 very different conditions as well. We've had a dry race at Imola, a wet race at Portimao as well. But obviously we're going to look ahead now to Austria at Spielberg, and of course Great Britain as well, for yet more action here at FuturEsports. If you've been watching us on YouTube, please don't forget to leave a like and also leave a subscribe as well. It's been a pleasure having you all with us over on that platform, and not forgetting Twitch as well. You guys have been awesome. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in. Please also leave a like or leave a thumbs up or whatever you want to leave. Leave a follow at least, and a subscribe as well if you want to, of course. And we'll be glad to have you back with us for Event 2 as well. Danny, where can people find you? Tell them your Twitter handle, if you please.
I don't even know my Twitter handle. I'm actually like an old grandpa, not that active on social media, but I think it's like Formula Danny. And obviously they can follow me. I won't spam their feeds because I post 2 times a year when I join to an esports team and when I leave them. and basically this is it, but obviously I'm doing my own content on YouTube as well, and I'm uploading some sexy pictures with only my cell phone or even with my girlfriend to Instagram. So if you want to talk and stalk, leave a follow, obviously.
Yes, you can follow the man, the myth, the legend, Dániel Bereznay, of course. What a man indeed. And of course, Danny, if we don't speak for a little while, I want to wish you the very best of luck as well in all your endeavours as well, my friend. But if you want to check me out as well, folks, you can find me at George Morgan TV. Of course, I've also got a YouTube channel that you can check me out on as well, which is also George Morgan TV, and an Instagram at George Morgan TV as well. So don't miss that. Plenty of stuff happening over there. But it's been a pleasure, folks. As always, do take care of yourselves this Tuesday night. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on the 15th for yet more action at Event 2. Take care. Goodbye.